Stop trading your time for dollars. In today's video, I am going to show you exactly how to do that. So today, I wanted to talk about value-based pricing and why you, as a service-based entrepreneur, can quickly and easily do that. So I am very passionate about this topic. I love all things pricing. Just dive in there and get this out of the way. Value-based pricing, Tammy, what is it? It is moving beyond hourly and pricing based on the impact that you get for your clients. And you don't have to put together a coaching package in order to be able to do that. I am teaching you just how to productize the work that you do and then be able to articulate it in a value-based way so that you can charge a fixed price as opposed to charging an hourly rate. And it's really not that hard. Well, let me back up. Conceptually, it's really not that hard. I think for us, a lot of the times it's a mindset shift in how we think about the work that we do and the support that we provide to our clients. We've got to pivot as it relates to thinking about ourselves not as an employee, right? But as a value provider. This is something that you are giving or selling to your client, and they're going to save time, they're going to save money, they're going to save resources, they're going to save headaches. Like, that's how you want to position your value-based offering. Now, how do we do this in a very simple, streamlined way? Well, the first thing you need to do is identify the specific problem that you're solving. And that can be maybe you are providing revenue increase, or maybe you are saving that client time, or maybe you are reducing risk for them, right? So first, be able to identify the specific problem. Next, quantify the problem as it relates to the cost, right, for that client. So if it's a $100,000 headache, we need to be able to quantify that. If it's revenue or money that they've lost or time that they've lost. If it's time that they've lost, how much time? Quantify how much time they would lose if they did it on their own or if they did it with someone who was inexperienced as opposed to doing it with you. You can also quantify risk, right? Because that's how insurance companies, that's how they charge us what they charge us, right? So quantify risk. How much is the weight of that risk for your client? Next, set your price as a percentage of the value. So typically, I would say you would set it between maybe 15% and 30%. So if you were saving your client, $100,000, apply between 15% and 30%, right? As what we would call the risk fee. And that is what you would charge in terms of the value that you're going to provide. Then that you have clear deliverables that are focused on outcomes, not tasks. And what I see a lot of the times, especially with freelancers, are we like to tell people all the things on how we're going to do the things, right? Well, a client's not interested in that. A client is not interested in you outlining all the different tasks, all the 15,000 tasks that you're going to do for them. That is not what they want to hear. What they want to hear are the results. So what did you get them? If you did 15 tasks, then what was the thing, the one thing, the two things that created maximum impact, right? And so you just need to shift your thinking a little bit about not being a taskmaster, but being someone who can deliver an impact to that client or an outcome to that client. And then lastly, make sure that you establish metrics so that you can measure the success. And you want to do this before you start, right? Don't do it after you're already in the midst, right? Make sure that you are able to measure your success before you actually start that project. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to give you a little bit of a formula, right? And hopefully I want you to write it down. Make sure you write it down. So this is just an easy formula that you can use the next time that you get on the phone with your client and you are giving them your pricing. So what you need to calculate is what we would call the ROI, or the return on investment. The formula for that investment is the value gained minus your fee divided by your fee, and then times it by 100%. Let me say that for you one more time. Let me say it for the people in the back. Your ROI, or your return on investment, is equal to the value gained minus your fee divided by your fee, and then it's times 100%. So let me give you a quick example. You are delivering $50,000 of value, and with that, you are going to charge a $10,000 fee. Well, your ROI on that is 400%. So you see how that works? Like, if you show that to a client, they'll be like, where can I sign? Where do I sign? Give me the contract. Send me the contract. So again, it's a very simple math calculation that helps you articulate your value in a way that's transferable and translatable to your client. Now, you'll have to include tangible things, right? So that would include time, it would include money, it will include your reputation, testimonials, all of those things, right? So when you put the number out there, don't just throw it out there, right? When you put the number out there, make sure that you are also including all of the tangible and intangible things that go into the ROI, because that makes a larger impact, if you will, on the number that you're putting out there for your client. Now, you might be asking yourself, okay, I've got this client that that I've got a call with here shortly. And I promise you, every time I talk to this client, they are fixated on hourly rates. Tammy, how can I do the judo mind trick, right, on that client so that they are no longer fixated on thinking about an hourly rate and tasks, and I am helping them think about the value that I am creating for them? So I know you're asking that question. So what I would say to that is, have you ever worked with professionals on this issue before? What was their experience like? That is a great question to ask a client, because what you want to know is what their largest complaints were or are, right? What is the fear? So what you're trying to uncover is the fear that's stopping them from moving to value-based pricing from hourly pricing. So you want to learn things like what their fear around costs are, or what complaints around the results might be, right? Another question you can ask is, what would make this investment a clear win for you? So now you're trying to understand what is valuable to that client, right? You want to know what's important to them. You want to know how it's going to impact their business. You want to make sure that they are not just focused on the price, but they're also focused on the outcome, right? Another question you can ask them is, how will they measure success for the project 6 months down the road? Again, it's a mindset question, right? You're trying to dig a little deeper in terms of where their thought process is as it relates to this project. You want to know what's worked for them so far, what hasn't worked for them, right? Those are the things that you definitely want to know. And then the last question you want to ask them, again, another fact-finding question is, what is the timeline for seeing results? And that one's a gold nugget, because with that question, what you can do is you can really begin to align the impact that you're going to provide to the results that they expect, right? So that one is that's a really good nugget if you can ask it in a way and get some results. I would also say that part of value-based pricing is not only the questions that you ask the client, and you might be afraid of the pushback that you receive, but I think another part of value-based pricing can be just the fear around it altogether. What I would say to that is, think of yourself as someone with great skill set, with great expertise, you have experience, you have wisdom, you have all these things that are of value. So first, think of yourself as a value provider, right? And don't worry about whether or not you're going to lose the faith of that client, right? Because if you never ask, right, then you'll never succeed, right? And so my mother used to always tell me, and I remember when she would tell me this, she would always say to me, don't you tell yourself no, you let someone else tell you no. And so part of it is, again, it's a mindset shift in how we think about ourselves, how we show up in the work that we do, and the value that we are placing on that. And let me just give you a little story. So when I first started as a freelancer, I was doing hourly rate, right? Because I thought to myself, well, I'm not quite sure how much I want to charge, and that's okay. If you're out the gate and you're new, then it's okay to charge an hourly rate, right? Because especially if it's a new service offering or it's a new, business proposition for you, then you may want to at least test the market. So doing hourly rate could be a great way of handling that. But when I was doing my freelance work, and in this case, it was proposal writing, I would charge an hourly rate. And as I got better, as I increased the tools, as I increased my organization, as I became more impactful, as we shared more wins, all of those things, as I began to gain more momentum, and I had a steady process by which to have a steady outcome, I knew then that I was creating something of value and that they couldn't find anywhere else, and that they would pay for that value. So again, for me, I was charging an hourly rate. But once I started to demonstrate the wins, I was 3 to 4 to 5 times more valuable than the hourly rate that I was charging. And from then on, I began to charge a fixed price. I knew how long it would take to do a proposal. I knew what the consistent outcomes would be if I followed my process and my steps. So from that perspective, I began to become much more comfortable with being able to charge what I was worth. And so that's what I would tell you, and that's what I would encourage you to do. Again, you're going to learn. So early on, you'll learn, and that's okay. But as you get better and as you deliver for more clients and you deliver more consistently for clients, make sure that you are pulling out the value and you are charging truly what you're worth. Now, so here's some examples of how you can implement value-based pricing in the work that you do. I've actually got about 3 really juicy examples. Here's one. You are a former HR executive. Now, normally you would be charging about $150 an hour. But in this case, you're doing a 90-day leadership program and you want to charge $25,000. I'm saying go ahead and do that, because the program itself is going to reduce executive turnover by 30%. And it's going to save that client about $250,000. 10% of $250,000 is your $25,000 fee. It's a very simple math. But again, understand your impact. I think that's the critical piece. Let's say that you are a marketing consultant. You have a chief marketing package and and as a part of that package, it's a marketing roadmap. And let's say you don't want to charge $125 an hour. Don't do it. I say charge $15,000 for that roadmap. Why? Because clients would typically see $100,000 in new revenue within 6 months of your package. So again, you're taking 15% of the value that client would see, and that becomes your valuable pricing rate. Last example is you are a financial planner and you have a retirement readiness package. And typically you would charge about $100 an hour, right? You might charge your client that. I say charge $7,500 because typically you can help your client find about $100,000 in retirement savings through tax strategies and investments, right? So why not charge $7,500, right? That's about 7.5% of what they would actually realize, right? And so when you think about it from that perspective, it becomes more real, and it also ties the outcome or the saving or the investment or whatever to whatever it is that you're going to charge. Like there's a direct tie. And that is what's really helpful for clients to see. Now, I hope you found this information to be extremely helpful. And so this is one of 4 videos on pricing, because I know that this is an area, I know that my clients have told me this is an area that they would love to gain more confidence in. And so that's what we're going to do over the next 4 weeks. I'm going to be talking all things pricing and how you can make sure that you are charging what you're worth. So that is all I have for today. Thanks again for turning in to Make It a Double. I'm Tammy,